I think we learned a lot today about biohacking, health, performance, which magnesium to buy. According to your experience, it's like the best time to be productive for entrepreneurs?
For most entrepreneurs, it will be the morning between 9 and 12 a.m. And that is because your cortisol is the highest at this moment.
Are some people morning people and some people like night owls? Or is it just kind of like a lame excuse?
There is actually a gene that is called the clock gene. However, what I found with my clients is...
Today's guest is Jorn Kirkels, founder of Cellular. He helps some of Europe's top entrepreneurs biohack their health and performance. If we would talk about like one supplement that everyone should take, what would it be?
This is 100,000%.
We'll dive into the biggest myths around health and productivity, the quick wins that can transform your energy in just 24 hours. Jorn, welcome to the 301 podcast.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Really, really happy that you're here. It's really funny sometimes because my normal journey in basically getting podcast guests is like taking screenshots of their Instagram profile, following them for a while, and then just saying like, okay, maybe at one point this is a good guest.
Yeah.
And I remember when I saw you first, you were like this crazy guy. I think you still lived in Amsterdam North, if I'm not mistaken, because I was also living there.
Yeah.
It was around 2021, 2022 or something like this. Woke up at like 4 a.m., went with your bathrobe to the graft to take an ice bath.
Yeah.
And then when I woke up at 8 o'clock, you already had like 3-4 hours of deep work in.
True. Yeah.
Are you still this extreme?
I have to say, unfortunately, I don't have like I don't swim in the waters anymore as I used to. But with the time, like the wake ups and things like that, that's definitely still in the nature.
And why do you do that?
For me, that's a great question. Like for me, it is, I like a lot to have just the feeling at the end of the day that you have done everything that you could have done. And of course, this is like very deep psychology and things like that, where I've been brought up, for example, like a family, which was very great and mediocre and things like that. However, what I did notice in that family is that there was some form of happiness, but it was always like when it was Monday, for example, aka like the 9 to 5, then the smiles did lower. So I did notice that they were living in some form of pattern, and it's nothing against my family. But then I started like at one moment in time, for some reason, I found a motivational speech, and that actually just blew up my mind, just open like what you actually can achieve and what you can do. And that became very addictive because then you just start, you have a very powerful feeling that actually you can do things by yourself. And when you go down that loop, what you might notice for yourself as well, like small things, you notice its effects and then it just builds up. And that's like the end situation. And that's indeed like waking up early, just doing everything that you can to get the most out of your day.
That's awesome. Like, I think what most people are curious about, like, there's like those influencers and say like, oh, this is my morning routine.
Yeah.
But what is your morning routine? Because I think it's probably quite interesting for a lot of people to understand how extreme 100%. You are sometimes.
Yeah, so what you notice, like a lot of people indeed have like a very meticulous like morning routine. And the morning routine that I will explain is over the past 4 years, not only by myself, but also seeing the data, of course, of the clients that actually does work. It's actually very simple. I stepped away from a morning routine that's like 90 minutes and like very long. But the only thing that I mentioned I've noticed for myself that is important that you do in the morning is that you increase your body temperature and that you increase your the light in the environment, so that your body knows exactly when it is not and when it is there. That will help like activate your circadian rhythm, and that you have some form of mental clarity. So concrete, like my morning routine is I wake up without an alarm clock. We can talk about later why that is beneficial, but without an alarm clock. Then I walk to my kitchen, I take some supplements. The supplements I take is Qualia Focus, which is a specific like nootropic. There's a very small amount of caffeine in it. What is worth knowing is that because it's a capsule, like the uptake is much lower, and it's like 50 milligrams. I don't drink coffee anymore. So that's only the supplement that I take next to creatine. And for the rest, I don't have any special supplements in the morning. Then I walk to the shower. And the first thing I do actually to increase my body temperature is to take a cold shower. Because of course what happens, if you step in the cold, your body gets like that shock, and that is like perfect for like your nervous system and things like that. You don't have to do that for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, like only the first 30 seconds is actually enough. And in the shower, and that's pretty interesting, there's like a small hack that people can use for themselves as well. I have a very weird, it's like a metallic thing that is hanging around my shower, and I scrape my tongue with that. Do you know that? Like a tongue scraper?
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, what it does is that, especially in the night, you have 8 hours of just like build up of like a microbiota and things like that. So the first thing that I do in the morning in my cold shower is I scrape my tongue, and I thought it would be great to combine it because I'm already in the shower, so why not scrape your tongue there as well? It's literally like 2 scrapes, like 2 seconds. So that is the start. after I've taken my cold shower, what is important, by the way, because that's a hack that I noticed for myself, during my full morning routine, so I wake up, actually the very first thing I do before I get my supplements and things like that, I forgot to tell you that, is I set up some like positive audio. So that could be or like a specific like personal affirmations that I've made for myself. That could be some motivational speech or things like that. That could be in a specific podcast with like entrepreneurs or like something to activate my mind. So I get into that like thinking state specifically.
Yeah.
So then I come out of the cold shower, I do some kettlebell swings, and I've compressed it like very shortly. So instead of doing a full workout in the morning, I just do kettlebell swings, which are 30 kettlebell swings, which is perfect for like metabolic activation, all the things that actually your body needs in the morning as well. I do some push-ups and I do some stretching. And the important thing is that if you heard this, and like people will hear this as well, it thinks a lot. But if you do it like step by step, like this becomes just, you can do it with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
And my full morning routine is literally like 15 to 20 minutes. So it's just like back to back to back to back. And I can do that without, because I don't have like a phone or things like that. Of course, I listen to something. But like if you wake up with just in bed and you're not feeling 100% energized because you're not used to like going to bed to the same time and things like that, you grab your phone like that like 50 minutes is like way different. So not doing that allows me to have a very like compressed time of a lot of stimuli for my like senses, for my circadian rhythm to actually wake myself up. The last thing that I do is to wake myself up even more is when I've done my stretching and things like that. I sit down, I have like a meditation cushion, and I do 50 Wim Hof breath. So I just count on my fingers, and that actually helps me activate also my nervous system as well, but also my thinking. And then I stop the morning routine, so I exhale, and then it's done. So I keep my breath, and then I do like my mental like visualization for that day specifically. And actually that's it. And then the last thing as a transition to work is that I go sit down with my Remarkable, write down the things about my sleep. I have to say I do check daily, of course, my health stats. So I check like what's my HRV, things we can talk about later, like why that is important. And then I go just straight to work. That is all 50 minutes compressed. And what I've done, that's part like why this is important. I have increased like my body temperature. I've increased the overall like light in my environment as well, because I have like a key light on my desk, and just a lot of activation in my body to tell myself, or my body actually like to increase cortisol. And this helps me to just wake up energized without an alarm clock in the morning.
For me, that sounds like a half a day activity. It really sounds like and I think for probably 95% of the people, this will sound absolutely insane. Like this is really like, but I think it's so nice because of course it was not always like this for you, right?
100%.
How did life look for you before all this discipline? Like, can you maybe take us back a couple of years, like when you kind of, before you started this journey?
Yeah, so actually what happens is I was brought up, what I told, right, with a family, just mediocre and things like that. I always was living between friend groups. So I never was like in the group. I was never the most popular one. However, I was always like in correlation with popular people and things like that. So I had some form of coping mechanism actually for myself, which of course a lot of like, especially like younger people have, to do things to be liked with other people. And for me, that was buying a lot of like fake clothing, even smoking weed. Just I was also like almost like being known in my small town, which was best at the time, which is next to Eindhoven in the Netherlands. To be like the one that like blows a lot, that drinks a lot, and like things like that. Just like crazy to just be part of the popular group. And that actually all changed to me too when because I always had like inside, I just had the feeling of like, I don't know how to explain this, like low spirit, right? You come home and you know that you are doing something that is not 100% that is yourself. So then when I started to because what actually happened, I did go to the gym to also impress other people. And in the gym, one time I just didn't have the energy and things like that. And then is when the first time when I searched up something like, I actually just wanted to listen to music, like motivational or things like that. And I saw a playlist and I clicked that playlist and it was like, I think Eric Thomas or like a specific like motivational speaker. I started listening to that. And I don't know what happened, but something clicked in my mind. Like, why not do, instead of like trying to fit in, why don't do like the total opposite to potentially even like at that time, now of course not anymore, but at that time do the complete opposite so people will see me then in that way. So I started going that route, and that actually happened in waking up early and things like that, with indeed to go to the forest, to run by myself, also more to prove to myself like I don't like I am of value, quote unquote. So watch me. That was at that, and of course now that has changed. But at that time, that was the fire and motivation in me to start it going. And of course, I've had like a lot of times that in the beginning it was very difficult to come out of bed because your biology is not used to it and things like that. But because that drive was so like actually painful in the beginning, and that just was a fire which helped me to push the big ball in the right momentum.
Do you still have now the feeling that you need to prove those people from maybe back home wrong, that you can be the other guy?
No, the interesting is I've with my coach I have like an in-depth session if that was the case. Fortunately, not for those people anymore. However, I have two things. Like the main important thing for myself is that I have two younger brothers. And I just want to show them what is possible. That is very important to me because, again, we have a very nice family. But I do know that they can do more as well as the standard route 9 to 5. And if they want to do that, that's fine. It's not in my control. But what is in my control is to just be the inspiration or have the situation that I can be the inspiration to help them. So that is one big motivator right now. The second one in relation to the question, like how important it is for me right now to show other people. I would say it is still some form of important, but the people have changed. So what I mean with that is, of course, I care still a lot about the people that I work with, especially if those are like more, of course, all the clients, but just people that have some form of name or things like that. I'm more looking towards will they see me like the value, not necessarily like the value, but show them the value. That became less as well. So that helps with because what we talked about before we started the podcast is if you just have done the things, you don't have to worry anything about the value. And stoicism helps me a lot as well, just to know like what is in control.
Yeah. And how, I mean, you talked, I think, quite nicely about your family. So I would not even say that, like you said, like you had a nice upbringing, right? Yeah. You had like you have two younger brothers. How old are they?
They are 13 and, sorry, I said it wrong, 18 and 16.
18 and 16, right? Yeah. It's also like a really interesting age that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
How's your family in general with like optimizations? Like, did they follow you, or are you, for example, also teaching your parents to say like, look, like I don't know, you should take creatine. It's not like because I think creatine also had like a big, good marketing campaign, I think, in the past years, from this like, you know, gym bro supplement to like, no, it's actually much more than this. Do you also like teach your family then to say like you can live more healthy or you can extend your performance?
I don't teach them directly. What I do more is, I think, like more from an like inspiration standpoint, that they start over time questioning themselves what are things that they can do. So a great example is that my father, he had some like he noticed something with his heart rate and also cholesterol levels. Like, so he went to the doctor, and doctors are great if you like break your leg, for example, and you have to go to those things. However, the downside is that doctors as well, they are mostly trained, of course, on providing medicine, which can be fine, but not for like small things like that. So that's actually when he started to become interesting, because he knew, of course, that his son is doing things with like blood work and data and optimizing health and all those things. So actually, for the first time, he asked me like, can you check my blood work and what would you recommend? So together we did go over. I just took him actually just to the full product. So we did the blood work, we did the analysis and things like that. And I did give him some suggestions on things that he can implement. And now he is very much into implementing it. So yes, sometimes in the beginning they did ask like some things, but I never like forced it. Or I did force it in the beginning a lot on them, because that was in the beginning my personality, but I was just blind on all those things. Then I just didn't like talk about it at all. And just when they asked, I'm more than happy to explain in depth. And now the powerful thing is now I have also the data to back it up. Like I have my own data, I have the knowledge and the data of my clients to primarily see that difference. So in the beginning not, but now they are starting to get more interested in that as well.
Yeah. What I find interesting is like, I think you have like an insane discipline. I think many people have this problem that they struggle. For example, they're like in a place that you were, maybe drinking too much, maybe taking too much drugs, maybe being in a dark place from work. And many people want to get out of that, right? So I think there's a lot of people that say like, oh, I want to change it. They sign up for the gym, they go one time, they go never again, or they, I don't know, download calorie tracker, track 2 meals and never do it. Like, what helped you in this specific time, like when you were younger, to build that discipline? Like, what do you think is the most effective way of building discipline?
I think that like everybody knows that voice in their mind, right? Everybody knows the voice that is saying, okay, you have to do the right things, and you have like that like mother voice to say, okay, today take it easy. And I think what happens over time is you, from a nature standpoint, you like to prefer to listen to your mother. And what made a difference for me at that time, and still is today, is to not like neglect that mother, but just actually scream back. Like if you heard that voice, because like everybody, I bet you know what I'm talking about as well, right? Like the voice that says, okay, you can take it easy and things like that. There's actually the voice that is comfortable at the moment, was actually holding you back. It's holding you back from the dreams that you have. It's holding you back from literally everything that you want in your life. That voice sounds nice. If it sounds nice in the moment, that is like killing everything. And I think what helped me in the past, which I'm very fortunate to, is as well the motivational speeches, but also having like a very standard, but like having read like Think and Grow Rich, for example, at a very young age, and understanding like more the principles and things like that, that was very eye-opening to me. Okay, like this is what I can accomplish. I know that voice is actually just like blocking and just actually like the default for me achieving my goals. That helped me to push down that voice and become very aware of it. Like that's the full thing from my perspective with discipline. It's not that you do it for somebody else or that you want to achieve something or something in those lines. It's just that you lay in bed at the end of the day and just have that like deep sense of actually shame for yourself. And the great thing is you literally don't have to feel it if you start trusting yourself and loving yourself. And it's more spiritual, and what I mean by loving yourself is more listening to that like father voice, to call it that way. Just like push and go to the pain, and it's like fun in that way as well. I think that will make the ball rolling. But I think what is potentially even more important, and that's what most people don't realize, is that currently in how society is structured, it is structured about that like mother voice, to call it that way. So what is very difficult is to get out of that if you are in an environment that stimulates that more. It is, I would say, almost impossible, especially when you become older in age. It becomes so impossible to just break through those habits. And what I would advise those people, and what I see with all my clients, with myself still, it is not necessarily about having all the discipline. And yes, that voice part is important, but I would say that don't depend too much on your willpower, but build systems around it. And like very practical, what you can do, for example, is that everybody notices that at the end of the day, if you have had like a long day, as you thought, like a long day of work and all those things, then your willpower, if you have, let's say you want to eat healthy, and end of the day you have worked a long day and you haven't prepared your meals, or just like no matter what, even if you have prepared your meals and you have the option in your environment to take like a cookie or whatsoever, in the evening it's so much more difficult because you literally have like a think, and a lot of studies about it. I have a quick like story about it later, but you have a lot of studies about that. And over time, actually, your discipline lowers. It's literally a thing. So if you don't have any system, then definitely you will break. And what happens then is you will break, you will know it, you will feel good for a short time, but like after that, you have like the deep sense of shame, and that repeats that loop, and that like over time, of course, becomes your character. So from my perspective, the way out is to build a system around it with, for example, ad blockers. So what you can do is another weak ad blockers from Apple that you can just turn away, but actually like hardcore ad blockers, such as 1sec is an amazing app. Have you seen it, or do you know that app? That's huge, because what it does is you can literally block your settings app. So what happens is you have a lot of different app blockers, and some of the app blockers you actually can just turn off within settings and things like that. And if your brain knows that you can turn it off, you will turn it off, and then you have also like you are in the same boat, right? Because we are still human. They have the feeling of shame. So if you can block the way of unblocking the apps, then there's a form of freedom in that, because what it provides you with is that if your brain knows there's literally no way out, it will then it's just fine. And that is what you can build over time. So that like building a system, it will not like fix your life, to quote unquote say that, but it is the first step in building the momentum to specifically have also the right biology. Because that's the second thing. Like the first thing is that your willpower is lower at the end of the day. But because of that, if you go later to bed, you eat something before bed, like all those things, most people they think they are unmotivated, but their biology is just racked up. And you can relatively simple fix it with some like 80-20 things, such as in the evening, just have a blue light blocker, have the right form of magnesium, for example, magnesium threonate, which literally does like take zero discipline or willpower. That will fix your biology, and then everything becomes simpler, and then it's important to start listening to that voice more. I think that is the broad answer to give. And then practical, use the ad blockers. More spiritual is listen to that like father voice.
And if you would say like, what is the number one thing you would say like to build like a healthy discipline? Like if you could say like, if you implement this today, like tomorrow you will feel better.
If you implement this today, tomorrow you'll feel better, is to, depends a bit on the person, but is to manage your nervous system. And that's very broad. But what I mean with that is you can actually track this with your HRV for people with an Oura Ring or a Whoop Band. Okay, step back. What is the one thing? I would literally start with bringing yourself into data. So with a Whoop Band, you can do that with like a 30-day free trial from Whoop, for example, or with an Apple Watch, with an Oura Ring, and see how those metrics change over time. Because what that brings is you get out of your mind. You stop thinking that it is something that you are not a disciplined person, or you are not the one that has the routine and things like that. But it is just a biological cocktail, and you can change that. You are fully in control of that. I would say that is the first, because that will build a momentum. And then have the right mindset that if you see that data and it's like racked up, that you know that you can change it. That's very important.
Yeah, because I think that was also for me like one of the things, like especially with the Whoop, like I think to measure is to know, right?
Yeah.
And for me, what I love to do is like to watch Champions League, and then like maybe drink like a beer, and then just like go to sleep, right? And then like the crazy thing is that when you realize that my recovery rate is very nerd talk now, but the recovery rate is like 20% down or something, just because of like that one change that you've done, and more than that, right? Like your sleep is fucked up, your HRV is down, maybe your skin temperature is up, like because your body like needs to work and break down the alcohol and all this kind of stuff. And it's actually crazy that it can be just like 1 or 2 beers that like this can already like have such an impact on your body. But you would never like have it so visualized than with numbers, right? Because if you have like a baseline measurement of whatever 1 year or 6 months of your body, and it drops down, you realize, okay, like what did I do differently? And I think that's where like Whoop and Aura is, I think, really great. Is like they measure you all the time, and then you do one thing, and then they basically also say like, I don't know what's happening. Either you're sick, you're tired, or you drink alcohol, or something is going on, you have stress. But then you have to like investigate what happens to you. And I think that was also for me a little bit the turning point of like saying, okay, that's really interesting. And now you kind of like, I'm not the biggest health guy or whatever. Like I don't want to sell myself like this as well. But then you make like small micro decisions during the day to make that better. Or like, do I drink the beer or do I not drink the beer?
Yeah, that's a very important point. There's potentially even what you just said, like with being able to listen to that voice as well, like the father voice, for example. If you don't know like the impact that it's making, in your case, for example, like if you didn't have the Whoop and you drank that beer, then you can hear people talk about that beer is bad for sleep and things like that. But if you can see it and you don't know if you notice it, then it is like, I don't care too much. But if you are truly scared in a positive way, that will help. And that helped me as well. And that's all the biohacker movements and things like that people have literally paint with like EMF, which blocks like different like radiancies and things like that. The only reason why people have that is fear. And I think you can use fear in a positive way as well. So if you use the knowledge as a positive way for example, let's say stop with drinking alcohol, things like that, it's just immerse yourself in the information, how bad it actually is for yourself and all the effects that come with it. Plus what you did as well is to have like a feedback system for yourself. And again, it's important that you have the right mindset, because most people won't do it because they are scared to see the effects. They do know that they have to fix. That is listening to that father voice. But if you see it and you know it, then it becomes much easier to like quit it. And I for myself, like the same story, like even that when I like at that moment when you started like following me as well with going to the water, swimming there and things like that, I was drinking about like 8 cups of coffee per day at time, thinking coffee was healthy, seeing Dave Asprey and all like bigger health gurus talking about that coffee was like no problem. However, when I checked my HRV, I started noticing that it lowered. And then one time at the way home, I listened to a video of Alex Becker, and he was talking about like how coffee was such detrimental for like caffeine in general for like focus, health, and that he quit it and that changed his life. So I thought also with the perspective, okay, I will try that. But I was not able to quit because it's just like a biological experience, and then discipline, of course, holds you back. So what helps there in the best possible way? I ordered a book called Caffeine Blues, which is just a book that goes in depth, like all the negative effects caffeine has, for example. So I started like indoctrinating myself not to like why caffeine is such a bad thing, and that helped me to motivate, quote unquote, myself. And yes, it was some form of painful, but because you have that internal motivation, that helps. So long story short, put the last thing on how to be more disciplined is also start listening and watching things that actually provoke some form of fear that allows you to have an extra form of motivation to get away from the thing that you don't want and get to the thing, and that you have to have that clear, of course, as well, that you want to go. I think that is the main road.
Awesome. I want to talk to you a little bit about your company, Cellular.
Yeah.
When was for you kind of like the moment where you turned your, let's say, like craziness of, okay, I optimize everything for myself. I try all different kind of routines. I do supplements. I drink 8 coffees a day. Yeah. I go swimming. When was like for you the moment where you took it like a step further and said like, oh, I think I can also help other people with that?
It's funny because it became a journey, because I started as just more fitness wise. So the concrete start was that one of my family members actually asked me like, okay, I see that you are improving yourself as a person and things like that, and I want to lose weight. Can you give me some nutrition plan, or can you do specific things there? That was actually the start. So I just started making the meal plans and things like that. And then over time, I started listening also for myself because I was in a journey of like self-development and listening to podcasts and all those like things. I started listening to one more like business-wise podcast. So I started thinking about, okay, how can I like get more clients for fitness? And it was literally like 200 euros, for example, for 6 weeks at that time, but it was some form of start. And then one time I had a couple of coaches, and then I had one coach, and he told me like, okay, what you're doing is great, but what you can do as well is to help other entrepreneurs optimize their health, because that is more like finance related and things like that. So you can make more of a business of that. So I found it very interesting, and he pointed out me to somebody that's doing somewhat similar, which was a partner in the past, which is called Billy in the UK, and he does something similar. Now it's a bit different, but at that time I just started watching a lot of his videos, which went in depth, like you can use an hour ring to improve yourself even further. So long story short, I was already in the fitness space. But then I found out there are more things that you can do, and also more pointed towards not only fitness, but also like lifestyle and business. And that just started expanding. And what helped me concretely with being even more extreme is I started helping clients which had like very extreme questions as well. And that, just made me a nerd to go even more all depth in more the biohacking space and all those specific things. Yeah. So long story short, over time, it became extreme because you're just in such a bubble of extreme people.
Yeah, that's crazy. When was like the first time that like you had like a real achievable result with one of your clients, maybe one of your first clients, where you really understood like, hey, what I'm doing that actually works also for other people to improve their health?
It's interesting, right? Because actually, like, it has so much dimensions. What the first time that I saw a lot of positive things was actually when I started measuring with the hour ring. So when I started giving my clients an hour ring, so they, what we just said, could see their own data, that became super interesting. Because when I gave the hour ring, for example, I could see the HRV. And for people that haven't heard, which I can expect, like haven't heard of HRV and things like that, it's literally the meter of how much stress your body is experiencing and how hard you can go throughout the day. So I saw some clients that had a very low HRV, meaning that they are less stress resilient. I saw people that are having a high HRV, but also I started noticing that specific things, small hacks, so to say, worked on improving the HRV, but also like small changes in diet and things like that. And like that became, for me, like the biggest insight that was the most impactful for them. So to be concrete, Dennis Mulder, for example, for him, it was a big change that you can see the HRV. I have a lot of clients, of course, right now as well. The same for Sam Achterberg. We saw, and even though he did already everything with his nutrition and food, also that wasn't like steep in like a big improvement in HRV. But for most people, like the biggest wins is when they start make the mindset shift. Okay, like I don't have to have that pain of shame of every day, like in the evening, that you know that you haven't given everything that you could give, and start actually work on yourself. It's just a mental switch. Then give them that data point, so they have like literally a quote-unquote dashboard, so they can see how they are doing. Only that principle alone, that's already very powerful. So I would say starting measuring the data was the biggest change.
Nice. I mean, we talked a little bit about Cellular. You already mentioned multiple times like that you give Oura rings to your clients and dashboards and stuff like this. Let's make it like super practical. I want to start like improving my health. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a creator. I'm a YouTuber. I go on your website. I want to get started. Can you walk me like what are the steps to basically kind of like how you work and how people can get also involved with Cellular?
Yeah, 100%. So how you can get involved? We have like separate calls. So we always start with a call to check specifically like what is it that you want. Simply said, like what we do is we have 3 steps. Step one, as we just mentioned, like everything starts with data. So we measure everything that we can measure. So for example, we have at home somebody that gets the blood. So we collect the blood. After that, we indeed send an ring as well, and also the good testing. Then we have a dashboard, because the next problem that you will have, and potentially you have the Whoop. How long have you had the Whoop for
like
yourself?
3 years or something.
Okay, check.
Yeah.
They have a lot of data. So the problem, what can happen is that you have, like, you see your boot testing, you see the ring, you see the Whoop, and all those things. You have a lot of data. Of course, like the main thing is to make that data actionable as well. So you know exactly what to do. And also, as we mentioned before, like the feedback system. So step one is we test all the data. Step two is that data we analyze in one dashboard, and step three is of course the implementation of the data, and there's more of that we check like more like accountability wise as well. Like so we have like small steps, because the biggest like pain point could be that you have so much things that you actually know that you can do, but then it's very important that you have a step-by-step process. So what we do on a weekly basis is that we test all that data. We have a short check-in. And based on the check-in, we also get like an analysis. And if you have that analysis, that will help with like preparing the call. And then based on that call, we go in depth and more accountability-wise. So that helps like implementing step-by-step the hacks. So long story short, quick wins, intake, onboarding, all the specific things. Then you have the dashboard, and then it's the implementation of the dashboard. And you are crystal clear on what is working actually for your body. So what is the best food to eat, routines, and all those specific things.
That's amazing. Sounds so exciting.
Sure.
What I find really interesting is that I think most people, not only entrepreneurs, but like most people, they actually know, I don't know, for example, or like a lot of people, I think also do the basics, right? They eat healthy, they work out, I don't know, maybe, I think blue light classes, probably not basics, but let's say they eat healthy, they work out, and then they do their work. Yet I think there's many people that still feel like drained, like in the end of the day. What do you think, or what are like the biggest kind of like hidden energy trainers that people don't realize that trains them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like, we launched an performance score, which is a score, and I can see like 20 questions in which I can see exactly what most people answer. So I can see what are the most things that people unfortunately like holds them back. Like one of the biggest things is just eating close before bedtime. Specifically, if you already have potentially watch some fitness videos or things like that, one of the first advices that you will get is that you will eat like a couple of times, and that you have to eat all day long, small meals, and also before you go to bed, because otherwise you miss protein or things like that. Actually, what happens if you eat before bed, it raises your body temperature. And if you remember like what I mentioned, like in the morning we do want to raise your body temperature, but in the evening actually you want to like slow it down, because that is based on your circadian rhythm. So literally the signals to your body, do you need to be awake, or just do you need to go to bed, for example? So just eating close before bedtime is actually detrimental. You can always see where your HRV will be lower, your heart rate will be higher. So that is definitely one. And that is to do with everything that actually activates yourself in the evening. So that is indeed like eating close before bedtime, but also the training itself as well. I would say another like big killer is to don't have the awareness on how chats and meetings have an effect on your like mental state, specifically in the morning. So if you start your morning with a lot of chaos and a lot of things that are out of your control, literally the full day will be reactive. So the biggest win there is what we mentioned earlier. Use those ad blockers, for example. You can use those in the morning as well to make sure that you block out everything, so you keep that clear mind. That is the like biggest change for reactivity. I'm just thinking a lot. Another big one is not managing carbs properly. So carbs are not like bad, because that is another people that are already like potentially in health and things like that. I've been there as well, that carbs are bad. That's definitely not the case, but not eating the right type of carbs and not the right amount of carbs. So what is very important actually when you eat carbs is that, so for the people that don't know where carbs are in, it's just like if you eat, let's say, bread, pasta, etc., that's all carbs, but also fruits are carbs, potatoes, like those are mostly carbs. What happens if you have nothing in your system and you eat some form of carbs, like your blood sugar will just spike much more. And the effects of that is that your energy starts just being like a roller coaster. You have hunger, your mood is up and down and things like that. So actually what is a small hack that you can do is always, if you eat some form of carbs, make sure that you eat some form of fiber and some form of protein. So that could be, even if it's like a small like protein snack, or just like some seeds, like small things that will make sure that your blood sugar is not like rising too quickly. That's a big hack as well. And making sure that the amount of coffee that you drink throughout the day, that is definitely less than 100 milligrams, which is actually for a lot of people, because I see also in the score, like a lot of people drink 2 cups of coffee, 3 cups of coffee per day, which also is another like energy swing on your day as well. So you can imagine that most people, and that's what I meant with, for most people, it's just very difficult to have the form of discipline because their biology is just swinging all the time. So if you stabilize your blood sugar, if you have a slightly lower caffeine intake, and a quick hack for that is you can separate caffeine and drinking coffee so that you can still drink like unlimited coffee in the form of like decaf coffee, for example, and specifically Swiss water decaf is like a better form of that. And you still have caffeine capsules. You can step by step lower the capsules. That's something that I noticed for myself in the book Caffeine Blues and things like that, to like lower the caffeine intake, and they have much more stable energy throughout the day. I would say those are the primary ones. And another one is potentially like training in consistent of what is not the best form of training with the types of training that you use. So for example, the body parts that you don't train up properly at the right timings. So you're literally wasting time in the gym, for example. I would say those are the biggest hidden things that a lot of healthy people do, but don't know that they have like a huge impact. And that impact is of course measured by data, which of course over time you will feel as well.
Yeah. And I think you've worked now with more than 500 top entrepreneurs to improve their health.
Yeah.
What is like the number one mistake they are making when it comes to their health?
Specifically, the people I work with, specifically entrepreneurs, is not understanding that your body also has like limit. That is an interesting one. So actually going too hard without knowing it. And that's something, you call it the Yerkes and Dodson law. That's something that people can watch. But like from a practical standpoint, that just means that the gas pedal is just going too much to the right. And you can say that also like people that have a burnout, for example. And I used to believe that burnout wasn't a thing. But in the data, you can literally see that people can have like a physiological burnout in which just like, for example, your adrenals just don't make the proper amount of hormones and things like that. So you can actually see it. But separate from that, they just give too much gas without knowing that you have to like slow down as well. And that is for most of them detrimental. And that's the reason why they are like more reactive. They wake the day with a scrolling. They sit down for deep work, for focus, but they can't actually focus. Their mind goes all the like everywhere, and that's unconsciously because that system is just in that like on state, and the recovery is less. So I would say, if to compress the answer, is not properly recovering.
Okay, interesting. Do you also think because the kind of media, like social media, but also like the media in general, is kind of normalizing the feeling of being like tired, foggy, and like, constantly like, on or something like this as entrepreneurs? Like that it's kind of, people are not maybe thinking like, oh, is there also like, can I also feel normal, like, or not tired being an entrepreneur? Because like if you start your own business, everyone is like, oh yeah, like, I mean, it's normal, you have to work hard, you have to do this. Like, do you think that's also kind of like normalizing it in a way?
Yeah, it's very interesting. The first time that something pops in my mind when you ask the question, which is interesting, you can see it as an athlete. And an athlete, yes, an athlete is, you can say he has a reason to be tired, right? So let's say we see an athlete and he's just doing a lot of things. We can say, okay, it's fine if he is tired. But the question is better, is it beneficial for that athlete if he acts more tired and takes proud of that? Or is it better for that athlete if he has like more energy and also shows that? How would you think he will perform in the in his sport? Same for entrepreneurs from my perspective. So I think unconsciously people want to take it as a trophy. So I've worked hard, so I have a reason to be tired. Thus it is like normalized, and that is like the way to go if you talk about specifically entrepreneurs, but also like normal people, that there's even more, because then it's more of an like bonding, like, oh, I'm so tired, I'm also so tired. So then it's more of a victim mentality, like, oh, we are also tired, like more like that way, in which that is like more normalized, 100,000%. But specifically for entrepreneurs, see a lot of entrepreneurs taking pride in that they are tired, or pride that they have worked, slept shorter and things. And sometimes, yes, I still do sometimes as well. My sleep is not perfect all the time as well. But taking pride of that is, again, being as the athlete, which takes pride in being tired, but just like, it's just stupid to do, because then there are other people playing the sport. And if you want to win the sport, especially at a higher level, like where everybody is optimizing themselves and everybody is just getting everything out of their life, yeah, you can stay tired, but it's just stupid. You want to do like much more and just check what are things that you can do to actually win that race, win that sport, and same of course in business as well.
Yeah, interesting. If we would talk about like one supplement that everyone should take, what would it be?
This is 100,000% magnesium threonate. And specifically, because I know a lot of people will hear this and they will remember, they will potentially not write it down, but they will remember magnesium. They go to like a standard store and get magnesium. However, if you go to get like a standard magnesium, then you get a magnesium citrate, which is very popular, or like lower quality forms such as oxide, for example. However, threonate specifically, what it does, it goes, your brain has a filter. You call it the blood-brain barrier, and only specific nutrients are able to go to that filter. What threonate does specifically is it is the only form of magnesium that is able to go to that filter, so it helps winding yourself down. And we are just, as a society, just chronically like lowered in magnesium. And the reason for that is just what we mentioned, like the mistake that most people make is that system is in on state all the time, even if they don't know it. Even if you have like low discipline, for example, you feel like lethargic at the end of the day and all those things. There was a time that you had more energy, and that's why your system is in that on state. And what happens if that like gas pedal is still in that state is your tank of fuel, and that tank is actually like your neurotransmitters, such as like dopamine, acetylcholine, etc., is just lowered. And what magnesium, simply said, does, it restores the balance in your nervous system. So in simple words, it actually fills that tank again. And for most people, this will be the most like game-changing thing that I can give. Like, and I'm very practical. I take like MagTech, for example, but you have like, check your own brands, but MagTech is a brand that I use, which combines multiple forms of magnesium, but specifically L-threonate and 60 minutes before bed in a relatively high doses. So you are talking about 400 milligrams of elemental magnesium, which is about 1,000 to 2,000 grams. Now, that's a very broad range. Let's say 1,500 grams, of which 400 elemental magnesium. That will do wonders for most people.
Okay, interesting. Interesting take, because I was thinking that you for sure say creatine, because I think right now all the, let's say, health gurus, they say like creatine.
That's a hyper now.
So really nice. If you talk about like those kind of like health gurus, I mean, there's also like a lot of like myths or something. Like, what's for you like one of the biggest like health myths when it comes to performance, and what would you wish to ban forever?
And specifically like tangibles. So tangibles like supplements, etc. You mean?
Or any myth that you say like it's just like everyone talks about it, but actually does nothing for you?
That's a great question. I would say actually that 80% of the supplements that people take, which haven't measured their blood, are not necessarily like bad, but will not do anything specific for you. If let's say you have like all small tiny tanks in your body of like stores of vitamins and things like that. If those things are just like proper and you take like a specific vitamin, then it will literally do nothing. You would just have like expensive piss, for example. So that is a very thing. Like supplements for most people are not needed, depending on the type of supplement, of course. That's a big thing. I'm thinking about what are unfortunately not something that pops in my mind, but there are a lot of things actually when I'm thinking about like one friend of mine, which is interesting. He's always like an ex-client. He's always similar to me, but trying a lot of things. I would say that's a big that's definitely a big one. Like, is that, for example, more health trends such as diets, such as ketosis or animal diet or vegan diet or all those things. I do see literally with all the clients, no matter what your belief is, because if you start talking about diet, like it's for some people that are in health, it's also like almost their philosophy and way of living. For me in the past as well, is that most diets, for most like let's say 80% of the people, just having a balanced diet, and so it's very boring, but that's exactly what it is. Like just a balanced Mediterranean diet with relatively low saturated fats. Not that those are bad, but relatively low lines. That's actually the best for that data. That is what I found with most people. So that, and then the myth is that keto is better. The myth is that animal diet is better. The myth is that cancer will create cancer. That's also a myth. Like, those are the biggest myths that definitely come forth. And that also brings to my mind is that a lot of like studies and foods that people bring forward are based on like that, how processed they are. So for example, in the case of that red meat will cause cancer, which might a lot of people believe, it is depending on the type of red meat and like specifically like what has your like animal, what has the animal eaten, right? So what has your food eaten? That is much more important there.
Yeah, interesting. I think there's also like, especially in entrepreneurship, a long discussion about kind of like morning people and like night owls and like all this kind of stuff. Like, is this also like a myth? Like, are some people morning people and some people like night owls? Or is it just like kind of like a lame excuse to work late or to wake up early? Or
Yeah, what you have indeed, Dr. Michael Bruce, which has in that book a book about this, and there is actually a gene that is called the clock gene that does determine if your like senses do prefer specific times of day. So there is actually like a genetic preference of the day. However, what I found with my clients as well is that it is relatively easy to shift if you manage your hormones properly. So for example, let's say you want to shift. A small hack that I always tell my clients is that in the evening, of course, your body wants to make melatonin to be able to fall asleep. You can just supplement for like, let's say 7 days, a very small amount, which is 0.3 milligrams, for example, to shift your circadian rhythm and start waking up more earlier. And in the morning is the most difficult because then you haven't got like the initial cortisol response which you want, because then you feel more lethargic, you lay in bed, you snooze, like all those things. It's not that that's your fault, but it's just that is more the like cortisol part, and that is relatively easy to fix over time. So long story short, people do have a preference, just genetic preference, but for most people it's relatively easy to shift that if you know the things which impact your circadian rhythm, such as blue light blockers, the right form of magnesium, 5 grams of glycine in the evening is also always something I see with my clients that works positively as well. Make sure that you mind that you like deload yourself at the mind. So an acupressure mat, do you know that? Have you seen those mats?
Yeah.
Those work awesome because that like stimulates more oxytocin, for example, so that allows your body to relax. Those are the things that you actually can just do to shift your body quicker in the circadian rhythm and thus fall asleep quicker as well. So you can wake up earlier if you would like, but you do have a genetic preference, but it's relatively minor.
What do you think, according to your experience, is like the best time to be productive for entrepreneurs?
For most entrepreneurs, it will be the morning between 9 and 12 a.m. for most entrepreneurs. And that is because your cortisol is the highest at this moment. Plus, for a lot of people, their blood sugar at that moment is the most stable as well, due to like biological processes in your mind. Because what is worth knowing for a lot of people is that what happens in the morning, you have more cortisol. And cortisol is simple. Cortisol is stress. It's not bad. It's just you are more driven, like stress is being driven as well. And then in the morning you have the highest dopamine, so the goal seeking, reward, etc. And then later in the afternoon, if you also have a huge dip, for example, that is like a huge slump, that is also determined by the amount of caffeine that you drink and the carbs that you eat, for example, but also like naturally you have a lowering of dopamine. So in the afternoon, no matter what, you will always have some form of lowering. And then later in the day, you have more serotonin. So that's the best time actually to bond and to be more social and creative thinking and things like that. So that is in general the pattern of just like human biology.
Interesting. Also, like a lot of people talk about deep work, and I think you're also like a big fan of it.
Yeah.
How do you prime yourself for deep work? Like, what are the steps that an entrepreneur can take to kind of like prepare for deep work?
Yeah, I would say the most detrimental are definitely like, of course, distractions. So the systems that we talked about earlier, making sure that the app blockers, that you are not like blocked to anything in those lines. What will work is that we have in our mind, we have about 6 to 8 spots. That is like discovered by George Miller. And if those spots are overloaded, meaning, let's say, Marcus, can you send me tomorrow this document, for example? That will take one spot in your mind if you don't write it down. And if you have multiple spots and things going on, and which we definitely have as humans and things like that, so relationships and all those things, if those spots are filled, it is very difficult to focus because you have some form of overload, because everything new that happens flows out. So I would say that to prime yourself for deep work is the first thing is you want to make sure all distractions are eliminated and you dump your mind. And I found a very practical hack that people actually can use right now, which is, from my perspective, like one of the best things with using AI and things like that, is what helps in dumping your mind is just starting to talk or starting to write for some people. That's determinative, like introversion, extroversion, etc. But like, let's say if you like talk, or not like talking, but if you started to talk, you're more able to dump it. And you can use an app called Super Whisper, for example, which allows you to simply press a shortcut and you can talk, and then it will be transcribed so you can see it in AI as well. And I use AI to condense your thoughts. That's a very effective way to be able to have the clarity there. And then also like dump everything that you have to do, but just start talking, and that will actually literally just clean your mind. And fun like thing to know there is that writing is, if you write, I don't know the exact numbers, but let's say like if you write is about like 40 words per minute, for example. If you type, it is about 40. Sorry, it's about 100 or to 200, something in those lines. But speaking is 400, and thinking is, I think, I have to correct the numbers, but I think 1,000 words per minute. So it's actually a huge discrepancy if you think very fast and you write it down, which is a lot of friction for a lot of people, which causes a lot of people not to do it. But if you start talking, that's the most fastest way as we have right now, until Elon Musk comes with like Neuralink and things like that. That will be insane, because then you can then it's just like, then there's no friction. But I would say those are the like most practical thing that you can do to get into deep work, to make sure you have that mental clarity, and allow yourself about at least like 50 minutes to shift those states. That's very important as well. It's literally a mental state as well.
Nice. I think so many practical tips. I think probably we can like go on for
Sure.
hours
Sure.
on tips, because I think you've seen so many different like parts of like entrepreneurs, and so many different like people basically in their change process.
Mm-hmm.
From outside, it seems like that you're super hard to yourself, and like very strict to yourself as well.
Yeah.
How do you strike like the balance as well between like being strict to yourself, like having the discipline, but then still enjoying life?
Yeah. That is the balance indeed, mostly in the evening. So what I allow myself, for example, to do, also it sounds very very heavy, like allow myself, but it is just if you have a drive, you want to do everything for that drive, but give yourself some form of reward. So that reward can be like socially, can be a reward. Same can be like in the evening, for example, like what I do in the evening for myself. If I work the full day, I allow myself 1 hour of just like watching like stupid videos. So for example, that could be a nature documentary. That could be sometimes watch those fun videos in the gym, for example. That's a very like small example. If I'm just in the evening by myself watching those videos, that could be a way of like deloading. I would say that is the primary thing. Plus, what I noticed, and that's what that's voices we talked about with like the mother voice, father voice, etc., is that being strict to yourself provides me that freedom. So it doesn't feel, and definitely I am, but it doesn't feel strict to me, because it feels more that I'm in control of myself, and that provides that freedom, which lowers the desire to do other things, if that makes sense. Because I do know, like, let's say I go now get a pizza and do all the things that other voice wants to tell me to do. That feeling I will get afterward will be so negative that for me it's not a choice anymore. And of course that is a process over time, but do know that exists, which is awesome, because then you just live in discipline. And for other people it seems that you are living super strict and all those things, but you have just you're just like in control of yourself, which is awesome, of course. And of course there's downsides, which you what you mentioned, like in the form of you are more strict, so it is indeed more difficult to, I don't know, like let go of things. It is more difficult to be vulnerable, for example. That's one of my like biggest difficulties. So there is a downside of that as well. So that's like very personality based.
Yeah. Let's say you are at your deathbed, right? And you look back at all the things that you've done. I mean, I've never been in this situation. You neither.
Yeah.
And I would be curious if you look back, for example, like at, I don't know, the late nights that you maybe spend with your friends, the laughters, the pizza that you ate at 4 a.m. somewhere on the bathroom floor. Shout out to David Hasselhoff. Like, you know, I think there's also like those TikToks where they say like, oh, this is what life is all about and everything. Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering that for yourself, like, do you still kind of like have those moments, or like miss those moments as well, to say like, I miss like the late nights, the alcohol, the, you know, just like the carelessness of not looking in the consequence of like, I do this and then afterwards I will feel bad.
Yeah. I would not say that I miss it, but it is definitely, if you talk about it, it is something that I have not experienced a long time, in the form that you can do something without being aware of the results. Because it is a form of pleasure, right? Because if you know how bad it is, then it feels bad. But if you don't know, then you're just living life, and then you're living in flow and you are doing that thing. So that is definitely a way of life to live for some people. However, if you talk about your deathbed, for example, from my perspective, what would be more detrimental to me is that I know that I could do more and I haven't. And that is personal to everybody for what people want to do, of course. So I want to build a huge business. My goal, for example, the 1st of January 2028, or even more specific, 12 September, 12:05 in the morning, I wake up, 42th floor in Dubai, I open the window and I have a business of 400K per month recurring revenue, helping entrepreneurs optimize their health and actually making health data actionable. That's like my practical vision. If I don't achieve that, and I know I could do more, and let's say that in that case, like the drinking and those things would be an obstacle for my goal, that would be the like emptiest feeling that I could ever have, because I know could do more, and it would even mean that everything that happened in my journey, so the negative things with, for example, breaking through with my family and all those things, but also things that happened in business-wise, and literally everything that happens in my life, and also for the people listening, everything happens that happens in your life, that was for nothing, that would be more painful for me, instead of having just one fun night. And I think it is like seeing a puzzle in which you can see two images in one image, and if you don't know there are two images, you see just one image and that's fine. But if you know there are two images and you have seen the other image, then it is impossible to not see that image anymore. And then it becomes more of a game of balance. Yeah. And I think that is more the game I try to play. Like, yes, this is important to have the balance, but it's also very fun to go all in on one thing and just see what happens.
Yeah, I find it interesting. You know, I mean, this is more just the discussion point, you know, because also like if you sometimes think like, I mean, there's people that smoke a joint or that I don't know, get drunk, they have like a super crazy idea and make billions of euros after that on that, like, let's say, irresponsible, fun, stupid night, maybe, you know. I find this always like really interesting with like very disciplined people like you. I really admire that, by the way.
Appreciate it.
You know, to say like, I really sacrifice everything for this goal, you know. And I think that this is really interesting for me, because I also think that sometimes, okay, maybe like a little bit more relaxation and like recovery would maybe be good for you, or maybe you would like get like a new idea or something like this while doing this. But of course, you know, it's not, I'm gonna pressure you like in a direction.
100%,
but I just find this really interesting, like how, you know, hard that is sometimes to make sacrifices, and also like how hard you work to like never slip there.
100%.
Do you have a partner? Do you have a girlfriend or boyfriend?
I currently do not have a partner. No.
How would you think that would change, like having as well like a partner, like with your routines and your rhythm? And because I think many people, you know, they have partners, they have children, they have dogs, they have all kind of like distractions that can do that. I think for you right now it's very easy because you have to take care of yourself, and that's it.
Yeah, true.
How would you like see this like evolving if you have a partner?
I think it's interesting. I think that it will definitely make myself potentially a little bit less strict, definitely. So I think that is the main thing that will potentially happen. So a little bit more potentially relaxed, if you can call it that way. Other side, it is very dependent on the person, of course, that you take in your life as well. And I know that like for the partner that I will attract is very like, not necessarily disciplined, but also like focused as well. So it will be supporting in that road. So I do think I will soften up a bit. Definitely 100% that will happen. I think that is the main thing. I will become a little bit more softer.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great journey as well, because I fully agree. Like it is not about being so controlled, because there's the dark side, like big dark side actually about this as well. If you are like too controlled,
too obsessed,
then first of all you can enjoy anything that you are doing. Plus you take actually too much responsibility, which is like also not good. Like you have to have a balance there. Of course, that's like for life, like the balance and things like that. But I do think like a partner will help me potentially get more also like balance in that as well. And of course, it's my own responsibility to create like that form of balance. So I do think it will be soften up a little bit.
Nice. But I also like that you look at it that way, right? Like that you're not like saying like, oh, if she doesn't accept like this in that way, like I would never do it or something like this. Yeah. And I think that this is like, really nice that you also like understand that maybe like this like more
phase.
And also like that maybe like more that mother voice is also like sometimes like good to have in life, right? That is like this balance between like maybe sometimes too much mother, maybe sometimes too much father, but that life in the end it's all about like striking a balance.
100% agree.
If you look back the past years, what would you say is like kind of like the biggest like lesson you got out of like this journey?
Do less better. That's definitely a big thing, because one of my biggest bottlenecks was at a certain point you can do a lot and you can take a lot of action, but at the end you can walk blind and do a lot of action. But it's very important to, and that is I think also more that point, like to take a step back to, let's say indeed let's say you do a joint with a friend and you come up with a business idea, for example. That is that balance, like to take a step back and actually think what you're doing and doing the best things possible. So I would say do less but better.
Do less but better. I like that. What do you think is still one thing that a lot of people misunderstand about you?
I would say yes, I am very disciplined, but what people potentially don't necessarily understand is that I also do have like a lot of emotions. Actually, I'm like inside I'm very soft and just like very still human, of course, in all aspects.
Yeah.
Which potentially, because I was reading a lot about like personality types, like Enneagram, and also 6 personalities, all those things. For the Enneagram, I'm an 8, which is a challenger, which also means that like outside is very hard, but like inside I'm actually just very soft, vulnerable, and things like that. And I do think that a lot of people won't potentially think that is actually the case. So that I also have emotion. I'm not a robot. I'm also just human. And also with the discipline part, is just it's actually, I would say, much more systems as is discipline. Yes, still like when I run, I push myself a little bit more, but it's not that I have like superhuman, and there's also not that people that would say that or something in those lines. But let's say that people potentially listen to this podcast and think, okay, I cannot achieve that because I don't have that discipline. Just know that for me, that was also not the case. But by building the right systems and understanding your biology, it is much easier to go in that route. And the feeling that you will get again from being in the evening, knowing you have given your everything, or not even in the evening, but only your deathbed, and you have given you everything that you could, and that your story was not for nothing, that is like super powerful.
No, I think that's really nice, because also like I think for me, I think your soft side also comes across. Like I think you always talk very hard or something, but I think once you like have a conversation with you, like you also realize that like you are a human. But I think you can show that even more, because I think you have so much knowledge, and sometimes I think if something is like this disciplined, it almost seems like unattainable. For like many people, it seems like well, I could never do that, while I think when you give like those small tips, like, hey, just like, I don't know, take the magnesium, do this, do that, it becomes much more like, oh, I can implement this,
Exactly.
and I think this is the nice part of it. You also talked a little bit about like your big vision, the Dubai vision, 42nd floor, you said. What's kind of like the future, like the next couple of years that you try to achieve?
Yeah, so my primary goal is that my mission is just what we said, to help other entrepreneurs achieve also that form of discipline, but also just achieve that form of peak performance. And the best way to do that is to make health data actionable, because you can have a lot of data and a lot of people don't know that you can use data and what to use specifically with it. So our goal is to make that as like available as possible with a software, to have it like central on one place, so you can see exactly like these are the things that you could do, like the quick wins that everybody can do, to actually get more out of your life and see it for yourself, and that like build it out for them. My vision specifically is to have a very like lean and small team with all like very high caliber people, very like different personality types, very well thought out, and have just like that system running, so that you have all the wearables such as Aura, Whoop, all the things that you can measure, just on one place. And then my personal vision, of course, is to be the one that also inspires like other people, like this is what you can actually achieve with your health, but also with business wise as well. So like I'm not like a Brian Johnson all in on health. Like, of course, I'm like very healthy and all those things, and I found it very interesting with Data Point. But I find it specifically interesting as an entrepreneur. How can you use that knowledge from biohacking, from health, from data, and all those specific things to actually get more out of your life, your business? How can you actually focus more, like energy that you don't like crash, for example, like all those small things. I'm just passionate about that, and to deliver that on scale using the software.
Awesome. Sounds really, really nice. I slowly want to round off this episode. I think we learned a lot today about like biohacking, health, performance, which magnesium to buy.
Sure.
And I think it was really, really amazing, I think, to learn about this, and like to see your passion, like how passionate you are about this topic, and how, and that I find maybe you don't see maybe, but how intrinsically motivated you are to help other people to achieve more performance.
Actually, yeah.
And I think that is like so beautiful. That is like, you don't just gatekeep and do it for yourself and build like your empire, but that you say like, hey, like there's so much there, like we can all be better and all do a little bit better to perform better in life. And it doesn't always mean that people need to be entrepreneurs, or that doesn't people that need to be like achieve 600 million euro per year, but that can also be like small changes that make their life better, that strengthens their relationship with their partner, that lets them feel better, that I don't know, gives them more energy to play with their kids. And I think that's the beautiful part, that you have like really like an intrinsic motivation to make people better. So it's 100%. really beautiful. As usual, we have 3 final questions. They're really, really short. I know you have to run, but I think we can still squeeze them in.
Of course.
What's something that you're learning right now that you're not good at?
I would say vulnerability, and thus having people trust me more, and thus relationships.
Perfect. Vulnerability. What name would you give this chapter of your life?
Focus.
Focus. Very nice. And last question is, if you could send a SMS to all mobile phones in the world, what would you say?
Take your magnesium tonight.
Take your magnesium tonight, and the right one.
And the right one. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Jorn, for joining the 301 podcast. It was really a pleasure. And
thank you. I appreciate it.
Can't wait to see where the journey is going.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
And now it's time for you to subscribe to the 301 podcast. I still see that over 80% of the people that listen right now are not subscribed to the 301 podcast. So go subscribe to the 301 podcast, that we can bring more amazing guests to the podcast. And until then, see you later in the 301 podcast.